Welcome to the PA is In podcast, where we discuss entrepreneurship and evidence-based tools for running your small business. I'm Tracy Bingaman, physician associate turned entrepreneur, and today we're continuing the conversation on building a business that actually pays you on your time and on your terms. Last time we talked about the brain of your business, a specific measurable treatment plan, the direction you are headed, we will achieve A, B, and C by D because of E statement. That was episode 370. Add it to your podcast queue so that you can learn how to become a motivated business on a mission. The mission statement in the form of a treatment plan is the brain of your business. Today, we're moving on to the rest of the nervous system. Because a brain without a spinal cord and motor neurons, it can think, but it cannot move. It has ideas, but it takes no action. And that's where most businesses get stuck. Let's start with key characteristics. This is the spinal cord of your business, the thing that connects the vision and the motivation to the rest of the body. But before we go any further, let me be clear. If you cannot pause this episode right now and state your treatment plan, your A, B, C by D because of E, you are not ready for this episode or for this part. Full stop. Because without that direction, who you become, the key characteristics that you embody doesn't matter. What you do doesn't matter. You're just busy and sort of haphazardly running a business. We are not in the business of building busy businesses with more to do without an income or an impact. We are building intentional businesses of efficiency, income, and impact. So if you haven't yet listened to episode 370, scroll on back, pause this one. It's not going anywhere. Listen to that one, develop your small business treatment plan, and then come on back. When we talk about key characteristics for you as an entrepreneur and for your team, it's not just about transforming you professionally inside of your business. It's about transforming you personally. From someone who feels sort of overwhelmed and scattered and pulled in 1,000 different directions, like you're wearing 72 hats and you're not sure what you're doing, to an entrepreneur who's the CEO, who's the founder, who's the creative director, who is focused, clear, and decisive. Because here's the deal. The version of you who set the goal is not always the version of you who can achieve it. Sometimes, often, you have to grow into that person. And that's entrepreneurship. It's personal and professional development all rolled into one. It stretches you beyond your current capacity and forces you to engage with things that feel uncomfortable and uncertain, and even a little bit or a lot of bit scary. But that's also kind of the point. It's time to define your key characteristics, the things that you need to embody in order to achieve that mission of your treatment plan, in order to get those economic outcomes, to meet that deadline, and to fulfill that reason and your calling. You have to become a certain type of person. And they say that character is who you are when the lights are off or when no one is watching. So let's get practical about the characteristics that you're going to need to embody to achieve those outcomes. This is not about just picking some random values. It's about looking at those economic outcomes and figuring out what's required. Ask yourself and your team, if you have one, these 3 questions. What characteristics do we need to embody in order to create, improve, and sell our products? What characteristics will we need when things get hard? And what characteristics will build the kind of culture that we would actually want to work in? Because culture isn't accidental. And one of the most incredible things about building your own business, especially when you've worked in the cluster that is modern corporate privatized healthcare, is that you get to dictate the culture and that you and your team get to determine what it's going to feel like to work there. The results or the answers of those questions are going to determine your culture, and it's going to also determine the things that you need to embody as an entrepreneur, even if you don't feel like that yet. Your key characteristics should be specific and aspirational and also actionable. It's not things that are foregone conclusions like integrity or honesty or client-centered care. Those things are vague and non-specific. And if you have team members who are lying and aren't being honest or practicing with integrity, they need to not be on your team like yesterday. Instead, key characteristics are things like we tell powerful stories. We teach others how to do this specific thing. We're brave and authentic and resilient. When you are in the thick of entrepreneurship, you don't rise up to meet your goals like a phoenix from the ashes of burnout in the healthcare system. You fall to the identity, to the habits, the key characteristics, and you fall back onto who you are. So these key characteristics are about embodying the person that you want to be. Sometimes it helps me to think about how in healthcare, there's people who are behaving in a way that is not the way that I want to behave. This is happening in business. This is happening in corporations. But did you ever have a preceptor who was just terrible, who badmouthed the nurses, who wasn't kind to patients, who was just rude and insufferable and just a real pain in the ass? Where you were counting the days and the hours until you were done with that rotation so you could hopefully never work with or alongside that person again? If you've had that experience with a supervisor, a manager, an administrator, a physician colleague, think about the way that they did things and then think about the exact opposite. What are the characteristics that you want to embody on your team? What are the things that you think are really important? Because entrepreneurship is simple, but it's not easy. And you're going to need to be committed and you're going to need to be resilient. And there's going to be things that you have to embody in order to achieve that mission. Now that you're clear on where you're going with the treatment plan and who you must become in order to achieve that plan with your key characteristics, we move on to critical actions. Because a brain and a spinal cord without motor neurons, that's what we call paralysis. So the critical action are those motor neurons. It's you taking action in order to make this treatment plan a reality. I see this all the time. Brilliant clinicians with incredible ideas, courses that are half built, offers that are half launched, offers that are fully built without vetting or knowing how to sell them or access the ideal clients you are targeting. Lots of thinking, lots of excitement and energy, lots of righteous indignation that you know how to do this better because there is no one better positioned than a clinician to change the way that healthcare is being delivered. But then very little doing. Next to nothing getting done. Now, I'm not saying that's happening because you're not doing work, but maybe you're just not doing the right things. When you are scattered and all over the place and not doing the things that effectively move the needle and move you towards those economic outcomes, you don't make any progress. There's probably little to no income coming in, and it's exhausting to feel like you're doing so much without a measurable return on the investment of your time or your money. So activity does not necessarily equal progress towards your economic outcomes. So checking email and scrolling LinkedIn and following other creators and entrepreneurs and influencers on Instagram, none of those things are critical actions. Planning your next big idea, your next course launch, it's not actually a critical action. That's consumption. It's inspiration and brainstorming, but it's also maybe procrastivity, right? It's avoidance dressed up as productivity. You're doing things, but you're not doing the things that are going to move you towards those key economic outcomes. Critical actions are the few very specific things that actually move your business towards those 3 economic outcomes. Remember, we determined those in episode 370. It's the A, B, and C of your small business treatment plan. So you need 3 critical actions here. These are things that you're going to do in the pockets of time that you've protected and dedicated in order to work on your business. 3. Not 10, not 20 critical actions, but 3. 3 actions that almost anyone or everyone on your team can do that directly drive you towards your economic outcomes. It's things that are simple, repeatable, and effective. Things that generate sales, that generate leads, that are active in nature, not passive and consuming. Things that you do every day. Rinse and repeat. Your critical actions might be to create, to produce content or to build the product, to promote, to share, sell, and invite people into a conversation, to connect, where you're networking and building relationships and serving people. Notice, these are actions, not consumption. They're not passive. They're things you do every single day. Because success exists on the other side of consistent action. Small businesses, especially when you're working clinically and trying to squeeze them into the small pockets of time, are built with consistency and diligence. And doing things that you know move the needle and move your business towards accomplishing those 3 economic outcomes that you've chosen. Repetition makes a scholar, and actions repeated diligently and consistently over time generate revenue. And because we're clinicians, we don't just take action and pivot nondescriptly. We evaluate, diagnose, and treat. So think of your clinical actions like a specific treatment. You don't start lisinopril and check your patient's blood pressure 3 days later. You give it time. You ask them to be consistent and compliant with their medication, and then you follow up with them at a specific interval. So choose these critical actions and start to do them daily for 6 to 8 weeks. And then, and only then, do a secondary assessment. Ask yourself, am I being compliant? Am I actually doing these things? Are the team and I compliant with these actions? And are they effective? Did they work to move us towards those economic outcomes? Then adjust and pivot as needed, just as you would clinically, just as you would adapt your patient's treatment plan. So let's zoom out and talk about the nervous system of your business as a whole. So the leadership is the brain. It sets direction. That was back in episode 360. The mission statement, the treatment plan of your business, it's the what, when, and why. Those key characteristics, the core of what you are and who you are is the spinal cord. Who you become. It's central to your being in your core. It's the characteristics that you must embody to achieve the treatment plan that the brain has outlined. And last, but certainly not least, the critical actions are the motor neurons, what you and your team do day in and day out. Consistency with those critical actions leads to revenue, growth, and income. Inconsistency keeps you stuck, having to practice clinically in order to support yourself. When these 3 things work together, the brain, the spinal cord, and the motor neurons, you have a nervous system that creates momentum, where ideas become actions, where dreams become departments, and where wishing you didn't feel quite so trapped becomes the key that unlocks the gilded cage of clinical medicine. Until next time, don't just try something scattered and haphazard. Become a business on a mission with a clear treatment plan. Adopt those key characteristics. Act intentionally with those critical actions day in and day out. Clarity over chaos when it comes to small business wins every single time. That's all for today. This PA is out.